This question is similar to the last one. I notice I have a period. We also have a colon, so that has some rules. So let's just kind of go over them. Remember, a period requires 2 complete sentences. So that's the most rigid choice we have here. A colon requires a sentence before the colon. We have some flexibility with what comes after. It could be a sentence, but it could also be an extra clause. So we're not going to worry about that. But let's start with the period. Let's just look for sentences. That's a very easy thing to test for. So starting here, this type of random continuous movement. Could I end that right there? No, that seems like I just stopped short in the middle of a sentence, right? I mean, you heard it. So it fails the first test, right? This is not a sentence. This is not a sentence. So A and D don't work. So we don't need that strong punctuation mark. Maybe we need a comma. Let's take a look. This type of random continuous movement, which is known as Brownian motion, can be observed throughout the natural world. So there's a bunch of commas in this sentence. We're going to talk about all of them, but the 2 that are most interesting are the ones that are in the choice, this one right here in B, and the one at the end, because that is an extra clause. So the word which is actually a word that very often is used to introduce an extra clause. So that doesn't surprise me that we've got one here. And when we use the word which, we almost always are going to use a comma. There are some maybe exceptions, but feel free to ask about it in the comments and I'll eventually give it to you, but I don't think it's important here. The key is we can read this sentence without that clause and it is a sentence. So this type of random continuous movement can be observed throughout the natural world. That's the sentence. The which is known as Brownian motion, nice little description, but it's extra information I don't need. So that is the structure of the sentence. That is enough for us to pick B. That is the answer. But I do want to talk about this comma. What's this guy doing here, right? Because commas are supposed to show us where there's a break in the sentence, but I didn't really break there, right? That I just kept reading and it didn't seem like there was any sort of interruption of any kind. This is a comma that does not get used often. In fact, a lot of times when you write, you probably skip this comma, but basically we have a list of adjectives here. And even though it's a list of 2 adjectives, we still use a comma. So this is weird. We think of lists. Usually if we have a list of 2 things, no comma necessary. If we have a list of 3 or more things, we use commas. But that's when we have like a list of like nouns or verbs and it's got like an and or something in it. This is just kind of attaching 2 adjectives, 2 descriptive words to the same noun, right? And the noun here is movement. And the 2 adjectives we're using are random and continuous. And so that's just how it's done. It's one of those things that we've decided a long time ago in ancient times of English that we're going to do is that when you have multiple adjectives attached to a noun, you use commas to separate those adjectives. But that comma is not as important to the structure of the sentence as the other commas around the word which and around that clause. Those commas are used to insert something and interrupt the sentence, and it really disrupts the flow and helps us or makes it harder for us to hear what the real sentence is. But this adjective comma, kind of you can ignore it. It doesn't really affect the structure of the sentence in any way, but I think the SAT definitely put it there to mess with you, to make you kind of wonder what's going on. But hopefully your instincts kicked in and you were like, that one doesn't matter. Because yeah, it doesn't really matter.